Lego dressed as food, and today I'm trying to invent my very own Lego bricks that are made out of food, but we'll see how that goes. So here's the new series of collectible Lego minifigures, and as always, there just has to be one cosplaying as some random food. This time, a carrot that the comment's named Garret. Underneath his costume, he's got bright orange hair, farmer overalls, and a sign making it painfully obvious what we'll be building for him. A Zamboni. No, just kidding. Based on the sign and a ton of your suggestions, Garret will be selling his farm fresh carrots in the 24ville farmers market. Except there's a twist. Our success in making edible Lego bricks out of real life food will directly determine Garret's sales. If we can pull this off, he'll be rich. But if we fail, it could mean the end of his business forever. No pressure. So I speed ran to the grocery store to give Garret a shower and collect all the ingredients we'll need to cook up the perfect Lego food. There's a lot at stake here, so I got to work preparing some carrots for brickification. Cutting cubes out of them, we can carve a stud on top and a hole into the bottom.
Oh, this is gonna be great.
So I cut slices to make about 10 more, and they're just the worst. You can kind of stack them, but they don't stay together. So you could build a wall or a tower with them, but not much else. I even tried making a 1x2 brick using a longer chunk, but that was even worse. None of the bricks are the same size as each other because I have terrible accuracy, and carrots are obviously cone-shaped, so it doesn't quite work that way. Garret tried his best to sell this garbage, but we're gonna have to do better than that if he's gonna make it in the extremely competitive 24ville farmers market. We've got all the new base plates laid out, and I built this leafy archway entrance to the plaza where all the different stands will go. I am super excited about this city and all the insane plans we have for it in the future, but for now, it's time to meet Garret's first competitor, Franklin Furter, the hot dog salesman. His little cart has everything needed to craft the perfect glizzy, and people are buying them like crazy, which gives Garret an idea. I got a pack of old-fashioned natural casing wieners. Let's try to be mature about this, guys. Boiled some water to gently place them in, and soon they were ready to carve into 1x1 bricks, 1x2 bricks, 1x3, 4, 5, 6, even 1x7 bricks. The length was starting to get concerning though, so I just turned my remaining dogs into a more average size that stack much better than whatever this is.
I'm just gonna leave this here.
They even kind of work with the carrot bricks, giving us 2 different colors to work with now. Garret upgraded his stand into a cart for no particular reason, and then spent all day watching the crowds flock to buy Franklin sausages instead of his. Even worse, more competition has arrived. Capricorn, the corn salesman. And I know the meme has been dead for months, but if anyone knows an easier way to shuck corn and get all the little hairs off, I am all ears, because this is super tedious. But we've got our cobs now, and they're almost impossible to work with raw, so I tried cooking the rest because 1, it's delicious, and 2, softening them up made it slightly easier to carve them into corn bricks. Surprisingly, these ones actually kind of stay together. So I built up Castle Crunch out of all the pieces we've made so far. I also tried to make a corn boat that kind of floats, but thankfully, the boat that brought Capricorn to 24ville was much safer. Also bringing everyone from our previous city, 23ville, along, who you might spot here and there, including his son, Cornelius. They've got an adorable little father-son stand thing going on here, attracting tons of customers. And you know what that means, Lego popcorn. Except you can't cut it without everything just disintegrating, and the only thing you can really build is a pile. So maybe it's not the product he copies, but rather the cute kid. Baby carrots, it's foolproof. I've even got some real ones to try to turn into bricks, but clearly most of them are way too small to do anything with, so I just made a lightsaber out of this one. I'm the father. References aside, I really missed having a train track going around the city. I want to actually build a new train for it in the future, but for now we've only got the non-motorized old one, which brought Garret his very first customer, who turned out to just be the Pepper costume fan we're naming Piper, joining the market herself. Her stand even has fire and a small 22 tube screen sign, bringing in loads of sales. So I got some hot peppers that look just like her. They aren't that hot, but since they're obviously hollow, that really limited what I could actually make with them. Nope, sorry, we're not doing that again. Yeah, this isn't working out. So luckily, Piper is also selling mushrooms alongside the forest elf named Elwood and his shroom entourage. I did not have high hopes for these, and 30 minutes and 1 plumber later, my fears had come true. Their weird spongy texture didn't leave much room for error, so I decided to just paint the last one into rad shroom instead. For some reason, these Lego items aren't flying off the shelf as expected, even with the screen Garret installed. And now, oh no, here comes Giorgio, the pizza man, rolling in with his food truck, and professional chefs Poncho and Cliff on staff to dominate the competition. And that can only mean one thing.
Pizza time.
I'm cutting it into square slices like an absolute madman and using these things as Lego plates. Bricks were clearly out of the question, and it's good to have wide, flat pieces in our arsenal to give Castle Crunch some new carpeting. And speaking of the floor, all these stands have kind of been thrown willy-nilly around here, so I spent some time rearranging everything and marking off plots for future stands to go before tiling off a walkway all around the market with plenty of studs for customers to stand on. There's even a nice grassy area in the middle with a picnic table they can sit at and eat as much of Giorgio's pizza as they can buy. Garret suddenly decided what he really needed now was a food truck to drive more sales. I'm just using this Lego city set for now, but we'll continue to customize and upgrade it over time, especially since these things aren't selling. He even got kicked out of his parking space since it's reserved for even more competition, Willy and Wonka, with their ice cream truck selling all sorts of delicious and lucrative desserts. The perfect opportunity for Garret to get in on. So I got all these rubber mold things to try something a little different with chocolate. We can melt it down and pour it into these things to create surprisingly accurate bricks and minifigures that we can carve cute little faces into.
Oops, broke a brown piece.
This has been our biggest success yet, and the molds can also work as ice cube trays to cool your drink. They kind of work to make jello blocks too, but the results on that one are mixed. I've shown off this edible Lego candy before. It's still incredible how it works. And you've probably all seen this Lego waffle maker already at this point, but I decided to give it a try anyways. And now we've got the bricks to add a sturdy foundation onto Castle Crunch. Except no one wants to buy desserts from a truck with a carrot on it, so Garret tried giving out free samples, but that didn't work. So he tried decorating the truck to look more like Willy and Wonka's, but that just put him on a list. So abandoning all hope, he and his son just pushed it into the river and watched his dreams sink away. This carrot business has been in Garret's family for generations, but he just can't figure out how to live up to what came before him. The heck did he come from? This is Chuck, the chicken man, who totally ruined the moment there, but his new establishment, Brick Filet, gave Garret the inspiration he needed to keep trying. He sells chicken, obviously, and eggs, including Easter eggs, green eggs, and this weird egg he found in the desert. Normally all this extra competition would be terrible, but he's closed on Sundays, leaving the perfect gap in the market. Comment below which came first, the chicken or the egg. According to Chuck, it's chicken. But I love how accurate the Lego piece is, with removable legs to eat, wings, and a spot to hold it. Trying to actually make bricks out of chicken is next to impossible, but at least my dog appreciated the rejects. Eggs, on the other hand, have over 100 different ways to cook, so even though stacking raw ones won't get us very far, I can poach them to get that perfect carving consistency in 2 different colors even. Garret waited patiently until Sunday, then opened up his brand new stand. Except at this point, the merchandise was getting a little moldy, so he decided an animal mascot might help him recover. He dressed up his son, and I got this Lego rabbit set. But that just started terrorizing the entire market until the Green Ninja came to the rescue. She picked some cottontail before revealing her true identity as Penelope. Her pea stand has a traditional bamboo roof made with a bunch of these flex tubes banded together, and people love it for some reason. I'm not crazy enough to try to split peas into bricks, but since Penelope also sells all sorts of stuff, I decided to just go through a smorgasbord of Lego food pieces that haven't been made into costumes yet. Apples worked amazingly, and I built this little throne out of them. Pineapple, though, was much more painful. This is like a lizard. Peeled grapes are kind of nasty to handle, but actually worked out great. I'm surprised they don't make pumpkin spice Lego in the fall. They do literally everything else. Cherries made an excellent Gary the Snail, just like the Lego pieces used, and I channeled my inner cheesy studios, turning this block of cheese into a Lego Minecraft world. What do you think? To make it stand a little more zen, Garret added this relaxing fountain using clear blue studs for water. It actually brought in a huge crowd, but not to buy anything, they just wanted to watch the waterfall. Speaking of which, I've always wanted a waterfall in one of our cities, so I ordered a ton of these big ugly rock pieces, or burps, and raised up this massive cliff across the table. This creates an elevated portion up here for future houses to go, a waterfall we'll have to build at some point in time, and best of all, a train tunnel. I even got some spare electronics to get it up and running again, and but as cool as this is, there's still a lot of work to do on the cliffside, and the train also brings with it Garret's arch nemesis, the Fruit Bros, Watto and Ben Nanner, who have a tropical cabana stand.
And bananas for cabanas.
It's inspired by that horrible watermelon level in Mario Sunshine with a flexible palm tree and these fruit signs on top. I was originally going to use this set as Willy and Wonka's ice cream truck, but this sticker, if we cut it out, is perfect for these guys. They're going in the sandy corner here, where everyone's conveniently already lined up, so they can buy some extremely carvable fruits, like bananas. They're great for monkeys, great for Mario Kart, and great for making bricks to expand Castle Crunch's towers. Watermelons even have enough mass to make 2x2 bricks for once, which I turned into an entryway for the castle. And as all the customers file out of the farmer's market exit for the night, it has not been the greatest day. After all Garret has been through, all the ideas he's tried and tried and tried, nothing worked. He's a failure.
I'll take the entire stick.
Unless? Okay, nope, yeah. Trying to turn food into Lego was a bad idea. But Garrett's not going down without a fight. And the food mascot people always have each other's back. Stop him! Are awesome. So today we're exploring their past, present, and future by building this dino costume guy a Lego dinosaur world. As of now, this Series 24 minifigure is technically the newest Lego dinosaur, even if he's just a dude in a costume. Meanwhile, this abomination was one of the oldest Lego dinosaurs, released in 2001 as a 4-in-1 pack. Between this and this, Lego's made hundreds of dinos in all sorts of different shapes and sizes. So today I'm creating a world where they can all coexist, starting with a house to keep this guy safe from everything, who the comments named not Rex, I'm sorry. But if we take off the rest of his costume, I think the name Diego suits him much better. But I started to lay out a footprint. Done. And then we could build the foundation of the house. The walls are gonna be solid stone because it's extremely strong against attacks, and it's the only material Diego has available right now. So I used a bunch of different slopes in light gray, and dark tan to sort of sculpt up the sides like this. This chunk of the wall kept randomly breaking off though, so let's just use it as a table instead, complete with some lovely decorations on top and a stone chair. The rest of the walls went much more smoothly, where I created an arch of the doorway we can cover up with some animal skins. Diego turned another skin into a rug here, and another into some snazzy sheets for his stone bed. Where's all these skins coming from, you may be asking? Well, Diego is actually a dinosaur hunter in charge of protecting his tribe from danger and getting all the meat and skins they need to survive. He stores all his primitive weapons in this handy little rack here, and even turned this skin into a dinosaur costume he uses to blend in with the dinos whenever he catches a ride across the river to the wilderness they inhabit, which we won't actually build until later on, so right now the dinosaurs are all just out in the open. These classic dinos from the early 2000s are fascinating to look back on. A lot of them are only 1 or 2 colors with no prints, limited moving parts, and these rubbery raptors are just pure nightmare fuel. Diego's just gonna take care of them real quick, okay. But on this particular hunt, something strange happened. An orange man just appeared out of nowhere. This was Garret, who had escaped the farmer's market in a time machine he found, taking it back to dinosaur times. It's a good thing he's dressed as a plant right now, because T-Rexes are carnivores and don't eat. Diego barely rescued Garret from becoming lunch and introduced him to the rest of his tribe. These Neanderthals were the original inhabitants of the land that would one day become the city of 24ville, which Garret really needs to get back to. So he thanked Diego and headed back to the time machine and... well, apparently that pterodactyl has been giving the caveman trouble for weeks. They call it Terry the Terror. The P is silent, by the way. It carried the time machine over to its nest high up on the cliffside. I had a lot of fun building all this rocky terrain with a nest on top and a big old egg that fits right in there. But with no way to reach it, it looks like Garret is stuck in the past for now. So the tribe welcomed him in as one of their own. Diego even offered to let him stay at his house once we finished building it. I added a roof covered in mossy leaves and a chimney that you can sort of remove. And all these random clips around the outside are to attach bones that we can use as decorations. Sort of. That's all they had back then. The front side even has these cool horns sticking out and a T-Rex skull on top, sort of like how some people mount moose heads on the wall. And as a bonus, it can act as a sort of handle to remove the roof easier. But the bones keep getting nibbled off by Diego's pet ankylosaurus named Spike. He and Garret are gonna have to share the rug, which did not end well because Spike loves to steal and bury things in the yard, like Garret's pants. He's just gonna hide himself while I make another house for the Carrot family. Gugut, Charlie, and their son Jerut, who has a beard. Puberty hit earlier back then. They've been trying to farm their own food that doesn't want to kill them, like poultry and vegetables. That's why their house is sort of barn-shaped, with this really cool stone roof technique I used. The front door can obviously open, and this side wall actually opens up too, so you can better see inside. I spent so long struggling to get this thing to work, but the satisfying result was well worth it. The wall on the other side does not open because they don't want the livestock getting inside. Charlie is raising these mini velociraptors, sort of like prehistoric chickens, so I made this cool fence out of bones where they can chill and lay eggs and stuff. No, Spike, don't bury that. Okay, whatever. This silo on the back of the barn is where they would put their crops, if they had any. But so far, they haven't found success in farming anything in their garden. Luckily though, Garret was able to help the family plant and grow some prehistoric carrots. Gugut started selling them to the rest of the tribe, and thus capitalism was invented. But Diego felt like he was being replaced. It was his job to provide food for the tribe, not them. So he asked Mumbo Jumbo, the tribe's shaman, to put a curse on their barn that the family may never sell another carrot again. He's based on Mumbo Jumbo from Banjo-Kazooie, by the way, and I wanted to build his skull-shaped hut from the game. Luckily, I have this piece from an old SpongeBob set. It's literally one singular brick that made it super easy to build. We'll stick some feathers and a chimney on top, and even though we don't have room inside to be game accurate, I did print out the skull sign design he has, and I've hidden 5 stone skulls in the background throughout this video. If someone can find all 5, Mumbo will release a music video on our second channel, so good luck with that. But anyways, in exchange for making that curse, Mumbo wants Diego to capture him a dinosaur to sacrifice in the soon-to-be-built volcano. I grabbed every last brown brick I could find, created a skeleton, and stacked hundreds and hundreds of pieces in that classic conical shape. For the lava, we'll take a little bit of this, a little bit of that. No, I wish. That would be really cool to try someday. But for now, we're just using transparent orange and red pieces to create the bubbling streams of magma instead. This thing looks absolutely fantastic up here. But Mumbo Jumbo thinks the volcano is gonna erupt soon and destroy everything, so he wants to feed it a dinosaur to appease it. Or someone dressed as a dino if he fails to capture one. So Diego better get going. Now that all the plants and greenery are finally in place, new varieties of dinosaurs started appearing. And seeing them all in here like this is actually kind of majestic. Dude, dinosaurs are so cool. I showed off classic Lego dinos earlier, but these modern ones from the 2012 Dino Theme and Jurassic World trilogy sets are so much more detailed than what their classic counterparts had to offer, and come in a lot more species, which I'm gonna try to name all in one breath, so here it goes. We've got Triceratops, Velociraptor, Pyroraptor, Pterodactyl, Coelophysis, Dilophosaurus, Tyrannosaurus, Carnotaurus, Ankylosaurus, Pachycephalosaurus, and Quetzalcoatlus. That's a lot of syllables. But this time, Diego wasn't able to catch any of them. If he was going to avoid taking a lava bath, he needed some live bait. Well, that didn't work. Garret even grew a beard from all that anxiety. He needs to find a way back to 24ville soon. And it looks like Unga and Bunga might be able to help. They like to invent stuff in their stone factory called Ooga. You know, I don't think this design will ever catch on. I mean, smokestacks on top, a removable wall to see inside, a conveyor belt that Bunga used to assemble something called Stony on. This'll never be popular in the future, but hopefully they can help Garret get back to the future by inventing something new, like the wheel. No. Or fire. No. But we can add a fire pit in the center of the village where Chief Grok and Gruda sit on their stone thrones with their son Grug and just kind of grunt at people or something, I don't know. But what if we invent the subscribe button? Please click it if you're enjoying the video. Or a time machine. I don't think that'll work. Or sliced bread. No, that just makes me sad. No. A staircase? That could probably help them get up the cliff. So after plopping the factory into place, they set a few up and actually made it to the top. Then I added some last minute plants around the village, a waterfall, a tiny little hut for Grug here, and the caveman threw Garret a surprise party before he left. Except it was all a trap set by Mumbo Jumbo and Diego to capture him. The two of them carried Garret up the stairs to sacrifice him in the volcano, forgetting all about Terry. It snatched up Diego and flew away. Mumbo tried to save him, but zapped the time machine instead. That cannot be good. We've seen the past and the present of Lego dinosaurs, but this thing started creating some very cursed dinos designed by scientists from the future. Like
a Spinosaurus. So it should have 8 legs and it should have a lot of eyes.
A Ninjasaurus. So it's like a ninja, but a dinosaur as well.
A Chefosaurus, taking a dinosaur and the Swedish chef from the Muppets.
The Rhizosaurus Rex. It's gotta have good riz.
Oh, that one is terrifying, but it's not as scary as the final boss.
I challenge you to build Barney the dinosaur in Lego, one of my favorite childhood characters. So if you mess this up, I'm unsubscribing.
These absolute monstrosities started terrorizing the village, attacking their homes, eating their livestock, stealing their women, and in all the chaos, Mumbo used the opportunity to slip away and continue his plan to throw Garret into the volcano. It looked like it was all over, until Diego swooped in to save the day. He picked up Mumbo and Garret, and the three of them harnessed the ultimate power of the dinosaurs to save the village. Once the abominations were defeated, everyone yeeted them off into the volcano to stop the eruption. And after cleaning everything up, Diego was redeemed as the hero of the village. I really hope you guys enjoyed this massive project. Leave your Terry comments below, and let's get Garret back to the future. Or not. Lego fantasy world with quests, battles, and magical floating islands, topping it all off with a massive flying castle, if I can get it to work. But first we need some minifigures to populate this world, so let's create our character. This is the Falconer, leader of the Black Falcon team, who the comics named Scarlet. She's equipped with a bow and arrow to fend off the enemy army of orcs that we'll make later, and I want to build her a castle stronghold to defend. Except the orcs are completely taking over the ground, so the only safe place to go is up. Scarlet wants to take to the skies and somehow have her castle fly above the land. But obviously this is not Minecraft, and we have to deal with that pesky thing called gravity. So Scarlet is embarking on a quest to discover 8 ways to make Lego float. She'll be leveling up her skills as she defeats enemies, learns new abilities, and adds additional members to her party. Kinda like a video game. And we'll take everything we learn to hopefully make her castle fly at the end. But level 1 is a tutorial. Scarlet needs to train her pet falcon Violet in this obstacle course I built. She can fly through these rings no problem, but what if we light this one on fire? No, just kidding. Scarlet uses Violet's favorite snack to reward her, so I designed this small tower we'll probably reuse in the floating castle, where Scarlet can toss it up for her to catch. And for the final test, she has Violet catch her so the two can gracefully glide to the ground. But if you ever wondered what these clear sticks I use all the time are for, they're super useful for moving minifigures or birds around on camera without getting my grubby little fingers in the way of everything, and they can be used to make stuff float. Just connect it to something solid and boom, you can barely tell it's there. If you use too many, they start to sag slightly, but I built the first of 8 floating sky islands and suspended it just above the tower, where Violet was able to retrieve their first map fragment, leveling us up. Meanwhile, down in the ruins of a once great civilization, the orcs started assembling their army. This is their leader, the highly esteemed General Grog, and he means business. As the orcs grow their forces and take over more and more of the map, they'll be setting up new outposts like this one, with 2 towers connected by this rope bridge that's very sturdy, a campfire to cook marshmallows in, and these log walls along the outside. They've even got these training dummies to practice their conquest, which will only get worse unless Scarlet can stop them. The map says to cross the river, so she caught a ride on a fisherman named Wendell's fishing boat by agreeing to work for him. Because we all know the best part of video games is the fishing minigame. Oh, so much fun. But we can actually use fishing line to make Lego float by just hanging it from the ceiling. I've done this with Joe's spaceship and Charlotte's dragon in the past, and it's always a huge hassle, but this second floating island was relatively easy to situate. Relatively. But I eventually got it working and even hung some fish from it that look like they're jumping out of the water, and one of them had the next map fragment in its mouth, allowing Scarlet to level up. But good thing they actually needed to go this way. This is where I'm building what's known as the Tree of Ancients. This twisty old trunk said to have mystical time-bending properties. And it can talk.
My name is Morgan Freeman.
It took me forever to get all the branches right, but they hold the secret to our next levitation trick. This is Ebenezer the Wizard, who is joining our party. Due to his special connection with the tree, he's the only one who can touch its branches without being affected. He's gonna juggle them while I build the 3rd sky island that I can make levitate.
You know, I'm something of a wizard myself. Kind of.
Basically, we can use these branches to support the island from behind, except that kind of blocks our view of the tree.
Get the trash away from me.
So we'll just support it from below instead, where an orc jumped down and ambushed them. Scarlet and Ebenezer made quick work of it, but there's more where that came from. We need to start building Scarlet's castle now. So I set my wallet on fire and bought the Lion's Night Castle set. This thing is incredible, and it fits perfectly into the layout, with so many peasants to populate the village we'll be building, knights, nobles, Ebenezer's wizard friend Magisto, and so much more. It's up to Scarlet to protect all these people from the orcs, who are bringing out the big guns. They made a catapult to fling rocks over the river, until Ebenezer stopped time and left it floating in the air. Well, that was easy. A really cheaty way to give the illusion of levitation is just to drop something and take a picture of it before it hits the ground. This works with rocks, bricks, minifigures, spaghetti, and even castles. Look at that, it's floating. We'll see the consequences of that decision later on, but for now the next map fragment is leading them back across the river. They're gonna have to infiltrate the orcs' base without getting caught. So Wendell snuck them over, where the orcs had built a mine shaft, digging some strange greenish crystals out of the cliffside. Or technically, these ones are called goblins, and they're testing which minerals can cause the most destruction. Normal rocks didn't do it, and these crystals have potential, but they also mined up some magnetic rocks that we could use to make our next sky island float. Magnets attract and repel each other, so if you can strain them with something like a pencil, the top one can actually float. This is so fun to play around with. It doesn't float very high off the ground, mind you, but it allowed Scarlet and Ebenezer to escape up the cliff after Grog's army had spotted them. They loaded a net into the catapult to capture them, but it ended up catching someone else. This is Garret, a time traveler from the future. They probably should rescue him, but first, No, first, Scarlet wants to go on a side quest back to the village. Sorry, not yet. I built a simple little smithing shop with a water wheel powering the furnace for Clint the blacksmith to forge weapons, armor, and this ring that he really needs to destroy for some reason. So he tasks Scarlet and company to climb up the volcano and throw it in. But they had to battle a ton of orcs on the way who had set up camp, and this bald guy with respiratory issues was there. It was a whole thing. But eventually they succeeded and unlocked the next secret to flotation. I'm using a hairdryer to blow hot air out of the volcano, which Lego boulder pieces like this can float it. A leaf blower also works, but maybe a bit too well, so we'll just save that for
the blow test.
Or even better,
The throw test.
You know, honestly, the damage wasn't too bad. Only a few pieces actually broke. I was able to grab our party members, save the citizens for later, and use all these pieces to build my own custom gravity-defying castle. But first, I'm building a bridge across the river to give poor Wendell a break. It'll be guarded by Scarlet's most trusted soldiers, while they go rescue Garret, who's locked up tight in this cage, bound by tons of chains, which gives me an idea. You can use Lego chains to create this thing called a tensegrity structure, which uses science to make the top part float. It's kind of mesmerizing. The next floating island was so mesmerizing that it distracted the orcs long enough for Ebenezer to pick the locks and free Garret, who is going to join our party until he can get his time machine back. They had to answer a riddle from the troll under the bridge to get back across. Comment below if you know the answer. But I added this new tailor's shop to the village where Garret changed into his new drip, a farmhouse where a poor farmer struggled to sell any of his produce, and a tavern where a bard named John Murphy plays his lute. We can connect all these buildings together with a simple pathway, plant some plants, and pop in as many villagers as we can fit. The leftovers can help us decorate the tavern's roof in ye old amputation sensation. Using hands as thatch detailing works concerningly well, but while we were forcibly removing them, the orcs have been experimenting with the time machine they stole, taking it to who knows when. They kept bringing back random things like a baby dinosaur, balloons, a robot butler, this guy named Fred, and a 1950s suburban home? Hold on. Wait, no. Oh, man. I don't have enough helium balloons to lift the entire house like my friend Tommy did, but we can build a sky island that's just light enough to float straight up to the ceiling.
This is my favorite island we've done.
But while Scarlet was distracted trying to shoot them down for some reason, the orcs laid siege to the village. After all this time training and learning how best to protect these people, we're too late. Or are we? Ebenezer used all he had left to stop time once more, but he can only hold them off for 24 hours. That gives us very little time to build this castle for them to escape to. So using the parts from earlier and every technique Scarlet learned, I got to work creating the final sky island for the castle to sit upon. With 2 towers in front on either side of the drawbridge entrance, I built the walls back to this little house section and the thickest tower right here. We have a waterfall flowing into this side and a tree with its roots dangling down the other. There's a big courtyard inside with plenty of room for the villagers to wait out the siege, but first, we gotta get this thing airborne. It's too heavy to be supported by magnets or chains, and we don't want a repeat of the last castle. So I stacked up clear bricks to raise it up on stilts like this, stabilized the wobbliness with fishing lines strung from the ceiling, and the hairdryer was there for moral support. Our castle is finally flying, and just in time too. Violet flew Ebenezer and the rest of the villagers to safety, while Scarlet and Garret fended off the orcs long enough to escape themselves. The knights may have lost control of the orc-infested ground today, but they unlocked the secret of the skies that will hopefully help them reclaim their village in the future.
But for now, it's time for Garret to drop into his next adventure.
This is a poor one. Today I'm building houses for each of them to live in and simulating a Lego revolution to see which side would win. Out of the dozens of revolutions throughout history, I chose to recreate the French one, because this collectible Lego minifigure is based on the style of that time. The comments named her Marie, and she comes with a little dog named Archibald, who barks in French.
Oui.
I'm building them a lavish mansion to show off their wealth to all those poor people she's the queen over, who we'll get to later. But for now, I laid out the spacious foundation of the mansion, with different rooms for various activities, using only the finest white marble bricks. Not to be confused with marbles, which are really fun to build tracks for them to roll down, but make for lousy construction materials. I do like the look of these support columns though, so we can add a few on the front porch that Marie's butler Francois chiseled into this fancy pattern, except he missed a spot in the middle here where we can add steps up to the porch, which I decorated with this railing made from a bunch of 1x1 studs and put some flower boxes here in front of the front wall. I spent way too long adding all this ornate detailing around the windows, and the doorway had to be a lot wider than usual so Marie could actually fit through. She wants to put these huge oak doors on there and lock them tight so that none of the poor people can get inside, especially especially that smelly paperboy named Jack. Or actually in French that's pronounced Jacques. You gotta put your throat into it. Jacques. This kid barely earns enough food to survive by delivering the newspaper to everyone in town, including Marie. If her paper doesn't arrive precisely how she likes it, she calls Jacques' boss Fred to cut his pay for that day. And Jacques just goes hungry. He lives in this tiny little shack I made using all the broken brown pieces I've saved over the years to make it look super run down. And we'll also build houses like this for the rest of the city's poorest people. Everyone has their own stories of being mistreated by Marie, but they've never had a reason to do anything about it. Until today. It all started in the mansion's grand dining room, which by itself is bigger than Jacques' rat-infested shack, and has a table filled with delicious food and a stool for Marie to sit on. One day, she got bored of eating sautéed carrots grown by her gardener Garret, so she repossessed an entire bakery's worth of baguettes from a poor old baker named Claude. All of these houses are going in my colonial-era Lego city called 24ville, by the way, with sort of a shanty town down here, and the mansion will go up above when it's finished, both literally and figuratively looking down on all the citizens who just lost their entire food supply. Marie could not care less, but as I built her world-class kitchen with a checkered floor, stove, and fully stocked pantry, a small group of people banded together and formed a plan to revolt. Jacques painted one of his rats blue to scurry into the mansion's kitchen and steal back the bread, except it got distracted and just started cooking instead. He was caught by Marie's personal chefs Claire and Linguini, but honestly, let him cook. Everyone knows rodents have amazing culinary skills, and the three of them whipped up some ratatouille that transported Marie back to her childhood. Back then, she loved using her creativity to build new things, but her mother, Queen Marie I, put an end to it, saying it got in the way of ruling over their people. Now, Marie II wants a monopoly over creativity, making it illegal to practice outside the mansion's walls. She sent out a brutal police force to arrest painters and mimes and this mom who was just singing lullabies to her baby, throwing them all in prison while planning an extravagant ball for herself. This new law brought many more of the rebels' cause, who were quickly running out of space in Jacques' tiny shack. Luckily, his boss Fred allowed them to meet at the newspaper office of the 24ville Gazette to conspire. This place has a printing press, where he arranges different letters covered in ink to usually print the newspaper that Jacques delivers. But now they're using it to circulate propaganda to the people, spreading the word that they would be infiltrating Marie's grand ball, which she's currently preparing for in her royal bedroom. I added one of those fancy canopy beds here, made with a bunch of telescope pieces and these capes taped to the side as curtains. This big vanity mirror is where she puts on all that makeup, and her closet is a lot bigger on the inside, where she hoards racks upon racks of the latest fashions. As she drifted off to sleep that night, blissfully unaware of the growing revolution, she had a dream about a different kind of revolution, an industrial one. She wanted to erect a massive steel tower in honor of herself, and to do that, she needed a factory. All right, listen, I promise, I don't have a problem. I can quit building factories at any time. But inside this steel factory, Marie forced some poor unpaid workers, including children, and these robots named Steely and Frenchie, to forge steel into these little rivet things. The smokestacks on top pumped a ton of pollution in the air, but that's not Marie's problem. She had already made Francois cut down some old tree to build a doghouse for Archibald, put a dam in the river, and blew up an entire volcano to make space for her mansion, so she clearly didn't care about the environment. But now it was time to use these rivets to assemble her vision. It took 14 hours to build this thing on stream, and when it was done, Marie called it the Eiffel Tower, the tallest Lego set of all time. It's so massive I literally had to punch a hole in my ceiling so I could get it to fit in the city. This thing is glorious, but at what cost? The thick smog in the air is getting tons of people sick, and Marie refuses to do anything about it. At this point, she's robbed them of their food, creativity, freedom, and now even their health, and it's about time they strike back. On the night of the grand ball, everything was set up just right in the ballroom. Francois polished these golden pillars, Marie hired world-class musicians to play, and invitations were sent out to all her rich friends so they could celebrate their wealth together. But the revolution had other plans. Jacques swiped an invitation off a visiting Archduke, which gave him a free ticket in. While the other guests were distracted with the hors d'oeuvres, he discreetly propped the door open. The rest of the rebels were waiting outside, waiting for the perfect moment to strike in 3, 2, 1... Absolute chaos ensued. Bankers and countesses were hiding under tables, Sleepy Louie ransacked the wine selection, the musicians were just going nuts, and Jacques snatched up the thing they had come for. Most of them were able to escape, but a few ended up captured and thrown in prison. Marie locked eyes with Jacques as he ran away, holding the one thing in the world that meant most to her. Archibald. Oh, it was personal now. She had these wanted posters made and plastered all over town, having her police force scour the streets for even the slightest sign of Jacques. The entire second floor of her mansion was now solely dedicated to eradicating any resistance to her rule. And to do that, she needed some help. I made this Lego Napoleon minifigure who started drafting a battle plan to regain dominance. Step 1 was building a railroad to control the flow of goods in and out of town. It was a little sketchy running the tracks under the Eiffel Tower, and I had to rearrange a few buildings for it, but soon enough, the repurposed Disney train was chugging right along through the tunnels in the cliffside. Step 2 of the plan is... I was wondering when Garret was going to show up. Marie informed him that some evil criminals are on the loose, and if he helps her stop them, she'd make him rich. As someone who's faced misfortune after misfortune in every era he's time traveled to, this sounded like a dream come true. So he got right to work with step 2, building up defenses and bushes. He worked with Marie's gardener Garret to trim them all to perfection. This should help keep even more riffraff away. But Napoleon knows that the best defense is a really big gun. He's got racks just full of artillery and put some cannons out front to fire. Back then, soldiers would even attach swords onto their muskets called bayonets, and they used them to arrest tons of suspected rebels. But when the prison reached full capacity, they needed a way to empty it out with step 3. The guillotine. This awful device was used during the French Revolution to literally cut people's heads off. I mean, with Lego, you can always just put them back on, but ignore that. Pierre the Painter, dead. Mimi the Mime, also dead. Sleepy Louis, R.I.P. Louis. The rebels couldn't do anything to save their friend without giving themselves away. But Louis' sacrifice inspired the remaining people in town to join their cause, and they started tearing Jacques' posters down. At the same time, Garret was feeling very uneasy about everything. Marie insisted these criminals deserved it, but he began to realize he was on the wrong side here. Once I added this fancy schmancy roof, the mansion was officially complete, being one of the most detailed and just insane things I've ever built. Everyone got together inside it for one final briefing, where Napoleon had made a scale model of the city he used to station troops around, kind of like a game of Risk. Meanwhile, the Revolution was also planning their next move very carefully. They definitely didn't want to rush into anything. But baby Andre couldn't bear the thought of losing his mom, so he came in guns blazing and immediately broke her out of prison. Luckily, none of the guards were around, and it was actually super easy. Too easy. The revolution had been ratted out, and now they were trapped with only one way to escape. Everyone scrambled up the tower with Marie's army hot on their tails. They were completely outnumbered and didn't stand a chance until reinforcements from the factory arrived. Jacques kept climbing higher and higher until someone stopped him. Garret. Marie was screaming at him to push him down, but as he looked into the kid's eyes, he knew no amount of money in the world was worth believing her lies anymore. He let Jacques go and even bought him some more time. Marie was enraged and demanded Francois carry her all the way up. But to be honest, he had to put up with quite enough of her garbage at this point and defected as well. So at the absolute end of her rope, she had Napoleon bring out the biggest cannon he had to blast her up and face Jacques herself. It all came down to this.
Give me my dog back!
Okay. Marie's tyranny had finally been defeated. The people chopped off her wig, locked her up for life, and started tearing down her egotistical monument. They elected Claude as their new leader and established the freed city of 24ville. Comment below how many historical inaccuracies you counted, and let's finally bring Garret home. For real this time.